cold in here this evening. Right, I passed my Module 1 bike test, so I thought I'd talk to you about it. So as you know, I recently bought a motorbike and I'm going through the process of getting my full motorbike license, and one of the tests I had to do is this Module 1 test here in the UK, and this is a kind of off-road test, so it's not like off-road on dirt, but it's in a big kind of test facility where there's all different things kind of coned out, and they're looking to make sure you can have slow control of the bike, emergency stops and manoeuvring and everything. So lots of videos online where people have strapped a GoPro and kind of go through that test, but I thought I would talk to you about how I practiced and then kind of what happened on the test, and these things might help you a little bit. So obviously first thing I recommend is that you kind of have an instructor that you do some proper lessons and learning with, but of course you can do this stuff on your own. So what I did to complement my lessons was spent time in different car parks testing things out with both parking spaces and cones, so that I could try and kind of work out what it is I'm doing. So when you do this Module 1 test, you obviously have to pass your CBT, compulsory basic training. Then you can do the Module A. Once you've passed that, you can do your Module 2. Once you've passed that, then you get your full bike license based on your age and everything. It's important to know that when you're doing these tests, so like me, I'm over 24, and I could do these tests on a 125, but that wouldn't give me my full A license, A motorcycle license to be able to ride anything. So I was having to hire a 650 motorcycle when I was doing this test. So I'll put some information up on the screen to kind of symbolise kind of what's happening, make it clear, and also help you to kind of set things up if you want to do any kind of practicing in the car park, etc. So the test is basically formed up of really 11 different components. So something which is basically manual handling of the bike. Again, we're going to go through all these in a minute. Manual handling of the bike, slalom, figure of 8, a slow ride, a U-turn, which is where most people fail, cornering, controlled stop, a circuit ride, emergency stop, another circuit ride, and circuit ride with avoidance. So when we go through this, I'll have a diagram on the screen so you can see kind of what this layout looks like. But what I think will be helpful, which I'll talk about after, is the sizing of this layout. So you may not be able to find a car park big enough to fully lay everything out. I haven't got one close to me, but it enables you to kind of get a good idea of kind of how to practice it in realistic dimensional terms, so that when you actually come to do the test, it's not a complete shock to you. Okay, so I'll put this up on the screen now. So we have basically a diagram of how the test centre is kind of laid out. So we'll start off at the beginning. So you can see this in area 1. So here you're going to have basically 8 cones altogether. So 2 sets of cones. They're green cones, and this is where, when they open the entry to the test kind of facility, you're going to ride in. Now, important thing, as soon as you get on that bike and start it up, you are under kind of test conditions, and you should pretend that you're on the road even though you're in this kind of secure facility. So make sure you do your shoulder checks and everything before you pull away. Make sure you're listening to the examiner, ask many questions if things aren't clear. You're going to pull into the testing facility, and then he's going to instruct you to go and ride your bike into one of these little squares that have been defined by those green cones. So again, do your shoulder checks, pull away, and I recommend that you park your bike obviously forward facing in the left hand bay, which I kind of will circle on the diagram. From there, he's going to come over, you're going to get off the bike, and he's going to ask you to do manual handling. This is basically when you are off the bike and you're going to push the bike from this one squared area to the other. And so it's easier to do that from the left. So you kind of have the bike, make sure you do some good checks around, make sure, again, pretend it's on the road, you're manoeuvring the bike on the road. You're going to wheel it round so it's facing out the other way, and you do all that and you should be good. Next, we're going to move on to the slalom. So you're going to get on the bike and he will instruct you. You're going to go through the slalom, and then directly after that you're going to do a couple of figure eights around some blue cones, and then he will signal you to pull up beside him and stop. So as you can see on the diagram there, yellow cones, and just check my other piece of paperwork to make it helpful to you. So each of those cones are 4.5 meters away from each other. So that's the amount of room you have to maneuver around, except for those last two cones at the end, those blue cones where you're going to do the figure of eight. Those are 6 meters away from each other. So you obviously have a bit more space to do the figure of eight. When you are doing the figure of eight, technically you can go round that last yellow cone, but you don't really. You want to just kind of come past. Make sure you don't clip it, because that's going to be an issue and will impact you on your test. Okay, so once you finish your figure eight, he's going to pull you over and have a little chat to you about doing a slow ride. So this is about 3 to 4 miles an hour. He will walk slowly behind you. This is to test that you have good slow control, so good use of the clutch and throttle, and good balancing as you move along. Basically, he will get you to ride the bike along until you get to the big white lined area, which is where you're going to perform the dreaded U-turn. Now the thing with the U-turn to keep in mind is you have, this is my recollection, is you have about, I think it's 15 meters that you can ride before kind of running out of room for the U-turn, and the U-turn space itself is 7.5 meters wide. So for me personally, when I was doing these kind of practicing, I'd try and do U-turns as often as I could in the road, but very rarely was a road 7.5 meters wide. But that's kind of good in a way, because if you can do it in a shorter space, then you're going to be fine. So what I just did was basically went to car parks and kind of measured out 7.5 meters between parking bays, and then used those as my guide. So when you do the U-turn, key thing there is, you know, as you start pulling away, do a shoulder check to make sure your area is clear, and shoulder check again as you go to do the maneuver. Really look to where you want to go, and the bike will follow itself around. Good clutch and throttle control, because again, if you put your foot down, that's an instant fail. So you don't need putting your foot down. If you feel like you're going to put your foot down, release the clutch a little bit more, apply a bit of throttle. The bike wants to be upright, so it will get you kind of back up and right, and then come to a nice kind of graceful stop once you've finished that U-turn. Okay, so from here, it's time to do some cornering. So the examiner will instruct you to head off and up towards the top of the test centre area, through, I think it's through some red cones, and it has a big kind of semicircle. You want to try and go around there, around 18 miles an hour-ish, around that corner, just demonstrating that you can go at some pace and control the bike in a corner. And then you need to come to a nice kind of controlled stop within some red cones. I think they're red. Basically at the end, they're down near where you did the U-turn. So and also you want to be kind of in first when you come to stop. So basically, nice controlled, come around that turn. Doesn't matter kind of what speed you're coming out of there. Try and come through there around 30 odd miles an hour though, out on the straight, because it's going to help set you up for the next parts of the test. and then as you come along, gently squeeze on the front brake and transition obviously to the rear, pull the clutch in, move down into first, a real nice graceful stop at the end to demonstrate that controlled stop. Now you're going to do your emergency braking. So basically it's the same process that you did before. You go up and round the corner. The difference is you need to be going through that speed trap at least 50 kilometers an hour. So 32 miles an hour. You want to aim really 35. This is where I got my only minor on my test. I didn't go through quite fast enough on the first time round. I then was allowed to have another go, and I went quite fast. I was doing 69 kilometers an hour or something. So learn from my mistake, go through there at pace. And basically once you go through there, as you pass through the speed trap, he will raise his hand, and then you want to just come to a stop in a controlled manner, but as quickly as you can. So try and keep away from that rear brake a little bit. You don't want to be skidding out all over the place. Doesn't matter if you don't stop in first. So once you've stopped, take your time, be controlled. Put the bike into first, and do your lifesavers in case of it's a real situation. If someone's coming up behind you, you're in first, and you can pull away again. If that all goes well, the examiner is going to instruct you to do the same again, but this time you are going to do the obstacle avoidance. So basically you need to go through that speed trap over 32 miles an hour, and there will be a cone that will replicate someone standing in the road or someone pulling into the road, and you need to go kind of round that without slipping or sliding all over the place, and then come to a controlled stop. So once you've done all that, you are kind of almost done. All you need to now do is not screw up getting back into the parking bay. So remember, you're always under test conditions until you get back into the parking bay and off of that bike. So the examiner will instruct you to kind of ride towards the gates as he opens them. He will obviously you'll have to stop whilst he opens the gate, then you can ride through and park in the parking bay. And again, remember, all the time, at any part of this test that you're pulling away, just do your shoulder checks and everything before you pull away. Remember, this is supposed to be behaving like you're on the real road. So that's it. Then you should be good. So I hope that kind of helps. Some people say that's the most nerve-wracking part. I was a little bit worried about the U-turns, but I practiced them lots and lots and lots and lots. And like I said, just practice that so you don't need to put your foot down, and you're going to be good. And yeah, that's it. So I'm glad I got that out of the way. Next thing to me in a couple of weeks is my module 2, and I'm hoping to pass that. And yeah, I'll do a little video about that related to this as well. Thanks for watching this video. A thumbs up would be really appreciated. If you're interested in other geek type videos, please consider subscribing to Spectrum Geeks. Why not also follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And before you leave, why don't you check out one of these other videos that may be of interest. Thanks again for watching.